Hey guys, it's JB. Welcome to Third Eye Lucid Flow. Thanks for joining me here today. On today's program, I wanted to take a look at the spiritual meaning behind the terminology of today's greatest players termed GOATs. And we take a look at our spiritual good books. It says here in Genesis 3:20, and Adam called his wife Eve because she was the mother of all living. So that quote actually happened really early in the Bible, Genesis 3:20. So I want to unpack what that means. If we flip real quick to this verse in the Bible, Matthew 25, the sheep and the goats. Verse 32, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divide his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. As we know, Jesus is known as the shepherd, and the shepherd attends to his flock, which are the sheep. So the sheep go on God's right hand. So that leaves the left hand side for the goat representation. So we need to see how the goat is represented in the Bible and where that lineage comes from. So if we skip to Genesis 3, at this point God's created Adam and Eve, and they're basically just chilling in the Garden of Eden at this point. So the headline of this chapter is the serpent's deception. Okay, so at this point in the Bible, it turns into a sex education, and we figure out why Eve is the mother of all living. Okay, so this serpent character that's introduced here in chapter 3 starts questioning Eve about what's been said by God and starts basically lying to her. Like Genesis 3:3, it states, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God had said, you shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said unto the woman, you shall not surely die. So right there, he's lying. Even verse 6 here, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for fruit, and it was pleasant to the eyes. So that was being lustful. So when the devil tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden, he stirred up her sinful nature in her. Eve saw that the tree was pleasant to the eyes. The other thing that we do know about Satan as well, if we go to 2 Corinthians 11:14, it states here that, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. So he's got this transforming ability to create an illusion, and that's what Eve and Adam fell for, I guess. Even when we take a look at the terminology of fruit, technically a fruit is a ripened ovary and associate bits containing seeds. So the fruit and the seeds are basically, they go hand in hand. So she ends up taking the fruit thereof and did eat. There's a lot of scriptures in the Bible comparing people to trees. And a tree is known by its fruit. Well, the phrase means that a person's actions will identify who they really are. It also has a deeper meaning. In scripture, trees have also been used symbolically to represent people, households, and bloodlines. So right from the beginning, the Satan character lied. He was deceptive, committed adultery, and he's also a murderer, as he told Eve that they weren't going to die. So after that's all said and done, God's handing out punishment to mankind. So with the woman, he multiplied the sorrow of thy conception. So when a woman's giving birth, he made that harder, a little bit harder for women because of the error that Eve made in the Garden of Eden. So we can see here in the punishment of mankind on verse 20 here. So this is 3:20. And Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. So this goes back to the sheep and the goats. So she's the mother of both. So after this deception in the Garden of Eden with the serpent character and the fruit and now the punishment, so something pretty serious, had to have happened at that point. So what happens next? Well, we take a look at the next chapter, Genesis 4. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived, bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel. And it says here, Abel was a keeper of the sheep. So again, we've got the sheep versus the goat. So Abel was the sheep, and Cain was a tiller of the ground. So he essentially is the goat. So this is where Cain murders Abel. in Genesis 4:8, and Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. So at this point, Cain gets kicked out of the situation, and he goes and somehow he has a wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. So that's the serpent's son, is Cain. So that bloodline runs from the Bible, the very first days, up until today. If we take a look at John 8, the headline states, the children of the devil. Verse 44, you are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speak a lie, he speak of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. If we look at 1 John 3:8, it says, he that commits sin is of the devil, for the devil sinned from the beginning. So nothing is, done by mistake or anything like this. We know that God is a divider. Adam and Eve have to have a third kid, so we can bring in the Jesus bloodline. So in chapter 4 and verse 25, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. So Seth is the shepherd of the bloodline. And so basically it has to do with the bloodline, right from the get-go, from the top of the Bible to today. So the Jesus bloodline is all about the seed that's been handed down. If we take a look at Romans 1:3, Jesus is called the seed of David. Also, if we take a look at Jeremiah 33:26, and the whole nation of Israel is referred to as the seed of Jacob. There's also something that's called the serpent seed doctrine, and it characterizes original sin as a feature of genetic inheritance. So in this next scripture, in Matthew 4, verse 8, the temptation of Jesus, and the devil take him up to an exceeding high mountain, and show him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them, and said unto him, all these things I will give, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then Jesus said unto Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shall thou serve. So that shows you right there that Satan actually does have power that's been bestowed upon him from God, but he couldn't tempt Jesus to come to his side, obviously. So here you've got the good shepherd, which is Jesus, and the goat, which is the Satan character. I hope that I've been able to illustrate that here for you today. Thanks for your time. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.